Hello, everyone. It's October 1st, 2020. This is the weekly Backdrop developer meeting where we get together in an open format for anyone that wants to join and talk about the things that are happening in the development world, code world of Backdrop CMS. We do little short introductions, and so I'll kick things off. I'm Nate Lampton. I live in Oakland, California. I'm one of the founders of Backdrop, and I'm a core committer. Luke, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Luke McCormack. I live in San Ramon, California. I do web product management, and I contribute to various bits of Backdrop whenever I can.
Thank you. And Justin?
I'm Justin Christopherson, and I work on the occasional support of the infrastructure for Backdrop CMS servers and things like that.
Thank you. All right. As those present are noting and those watching, we've got a little bit of smaller group today because there's a very exciting event that's happening right now that is occupying a lot of our community members. There is a conference today called the Grace Hopper Celebration, a celebration of women in open source conference. And it is Open Source Day, which is their equivalent of Code Sprint Day. And we had over 30 people specifically volunteer to work on Backdrop and our issue queue on GitHub. And so we have a small army of new contributors learning how to work with Backdrop and work with issue queue and how to make pull requests, all happening right now. And it's occupying a lot of our contributors to coordinate and work with that team. So we're very excited to have all of those new volunteers. Welcome very much to the community. And thank you so much for all of the work that you guys are doing right now on Backdrop. Other very exciting announcements. We had a new release of Backdrop come out just yesterday, Backdrop 117.1. We also had a corresponding 116 release, 116.4. Those two releases were security updates. There are new announcements posted to backdropcms.org/security. There's the announcement number 5 and announcement number 6 for 2020, detailing what those two fixes are. Those two fixes correspond to a Drupal security release that came out 2 weeks ago that we intentionally delayed the release of 117.1 with those security fixes. We delayed it from our normal coordinated release with Drupal because we didn't want to have 117.1 and a security update come out the day after we just released a minor version. So normally if this were in the world of Drupal, they wouldn't do that either, have a new version come out and then immediately a security update, a planned security update come out the next day. But because we can't always control when Drupal does their security release cycles, it turned out to be bad timing for us. And we just decided to postpone the delay because the overall risk was fairly minimal, kind of your typical XSS security holes being plugged up. So let's see. We have a couple of updates to backdropcms.org, our main infrastructure. Justin, could you give us a word or two about changes to backdropcms.org?
Sure. We completed the takedown and removal of the CI server. It was no longer being used. So save a little cash every month, I guess. And then we completed the implementation of Let's Encrypt SSL certificates on all of the subdomains and domains that are in use, unless I missed one, but it looked like we got them all in the issue. So
that's great.
Yeah, and then I guess since BW Panda's not here, a shout out to BW Panda for reworking the sanitize.backdropcms.org download page. So that's looking ever more beautiful, and thank you very much for that.
That's great. I did not know that he'd worked on that. That's wonderful. Let's see. Yeah, I've been getting notifications that the current paid for wildcard SSL certificate expires in a week. And I'm glad that we're in a good place to not renew that, because both of those things are great cost saving measures. You know, we don't have to pay for an SSL certificate anymore. And we had been paying for the CI server that is now entirely without purpose because the chatbot now runs somewhere else that is joining in our Zulip channels. That's one thing that the CI server had been doing. And it also had been doing a little bit of peripheral GitHub integration that hasn't been in operation for a while. And now the GitHub has GitHub Actions, doesn't serve any purpose anymore. So we have alternatives to what the CI server had been performing for us. And yeah, great. I'm glad to see some of that craft cleaned up. All right, contributed project updates. Bug Folder, a new contributor who joined only last week, ported a new module last week and has ported 2 more contributed modules this week: node clone tab and comment hide subject. So 2 little tweak modules, it looks like, that came over from Drupal 7. Thank you, Bug Folder, for porting those modules. And thank you very much for joining the contrib group and being such a productive Backdrop contrib author. Olaf Grabinski also ported the term body class module, also over from Drupal 7. So thanks for those new contrib modules that have showed up in the past week. Let's see. Next up, current progress report on Backdrop CMS itself. As noted, 1.17.1 just came out yesterday with those 2 security fixes. 1.17.2 is our next bug fix release. There is a long list of things that are in the 1.17.2 milestone. I should also note that we had 3 issues also merged into the 1.17.1 release. So it's not just security fixes. There were also a couple of minor tweaks. But this 1.17.2 list, the items that we've got promoted to discuss on a weekly basis, I don't think that there's any substantial change in any of these issues. In fact, some of them have been moved from needs review to RTBC. Most of them are sitting in a needs review status. And so I'm not going to go over each one of them again this week, just because it gets pretty redundant and we have a smaller audience here than normal. I will say that 1.18, that's the next minor version of Backdrop. We're continuing to make progress on that. We've got 4 issues that are highlighted currently. MySQL 8 support is issue 4238. Is currently works for me, is passing all tests, and seems to be fully functional. But we're proceeding with caution on that because it does affect the way that all SQL queries are executed on all Backdrop websites. It just escapes with backticks all table names to make it so that keywords that are in MySQL, MySQL 8 in particular, they're not allowed to be used as like table names and column names and things like that unless you escape them with backticks now. And so it's an API change in MySQL itself. MySQL 8 is now the default on new CentOS installs, as well as if you use MySQL instead of MariaDB on Debian or Ubuntu. So MySQL 8 support is a high priority item for us because it's currently the default on many distributions of Linux. Let's see, next up, Webp support is a newish, I shouldn't even call it new, format that replaces JPEG. Lauren is advocating for adding WebP support to 118. This issue looks like it's in really good shape. It's 4509. Or in this past week, looks like tests have been added to that issue. It currently needs review and testing, but it has a pull request and tests. Gregory Klonos is advocating for consolidation of the update pages. Right now, if you look at the modules page, the themes list, or the list of layouts, there are 3 tabs up at the top that allow you to list current modules, update current modules, or sorry, list current modules, install new modules, and update current modules. The update tab in particular is confusing in a lot of ways because updating modules also happens to include all of core. And there's a listing page for all available updates that is separate from the update themes, update modules, and update layouts pages. So we just have a lot of, we've got a lot of redundancy, and it's a little bit confusing which pages do what operations. And what Gregory is advocating for is that we combine all of the available updates from being in these different places to putting all available updates always on one page and allowing that one page to actually perform the updates. Because in reality, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be updating these things like separately from each other. So anyway, it's a good initiative. The issue is 2714. It currently is just soliciting feedback, I think. Let me validate this. I don't think there's a pull request yet, only screenshots and mock-ups of how this should be implemented. Let's see. And lastly, Lauren came in with a really simple issue that he would like to implement. Oh, I thought it was Lauren. No, it's Gregory again. That he wants to add a simple new token for user accounts that adds a :link suffix to all user tokens that allow you to link to the user profile page. So a really simple feature. The issue is 4584. It's been marked RTBC and looks like it's ready to go. Generally speaking, 118 is still kind of in planning phases. We're using our normal advocate-driven approach that if you would like a new feature in 118, there needs to be an advocate that is an individual who is saying, I want this new feature to be in 118. And that individual is responsible for simply taking on the responsibility of cheerleading, basically, like getting people like up and excited about it, communicating what needs to be done on these weekly meetings, trying to solicit people to either do the development work or do it themselves, and then once the work is done, find reviewers or do the reviewing themselves. So what we'll do for 118 beyond those simple issues, we had planned on using this weekly meeting as kind of like a brainstorming exercise to come up with other issues that we wanted to potentially find advocate for ourselves. But with the number of contributors working on the Grace Hopper conference, we'll end up doing that next week instead. So we also have, I'm going to take a minute here and take a breather. Luke or Justin, do you guys have anything else you would like to add regarding the current version of Backdrop or bug fix release or anything like that?
I do not.
Okay. Well, the next section is initiatives, and I know that there's something there for you, Luke, that initiatives are kind of these larger arching projects that aren't specifically slated for one release. They're just an area of focus for our development team. And they might go over several releases, and they might not even be related to Backdrop Core itself. And one of those is Luke's initiative, which is the Ready to Wear initiative. And I don't think there's much to update, Luke, but if you want to say a word or two on Ready
Hey,
to Wear.
it's been long enough that I'm happy to sort of bring up the current the current status. We had a few months ago kind of gone through the first stage. Well, first of all, let me just say for a moment, just for anybody who's watching this for the first time, what it is. The idea behind the initiative is that it should be possible to create a beautiful, ready to go backdrop site without having to get deep into the weeds of theming and other kind of code based elements. That the idea is that we want to tie up loose ends so that it's possible for somebody to create a backdrop site that looks good without having to ever open up a code editor is basically the goal. And we've done some analysis as to the pieces of the puzzle that prevent that, and come up with some sort of tentative solutions, which I'm not prepared to talk about right now because I'm going to be tying that up over the course of the next week. But basically, I just wanted to say that the Ready to Wear project is coming out of hibernation. It's been a little bit of hibernation for a few weeks, but it is fully back in steam, and we're hoping to put it to bed. Maybe we can release something by 118.
Great.
How's that sound?
I noted actually kind of along the lines of Ready to Wear, one of the outcomes of Backdrop Live that we had in the middle of September was that we had guests from the Classic Press community present who were demonstrating some of the capabilities of Classic Press, which is a fork of WordPress. And they had a very impressive project installer. And one of the things that Jen wanted to do after that was that our project installer hasn't had the best styling for, like, if you visit backdropcms.org/themes, for example, the styling of that page wasn't really great. I'm not even sure if we actually had images on that page previously. So Jen worked on that page quite a bit. And if you visit backdropcms.org/themes today, there's been some enhancements there to make it so that that page is laid out prettier. There are now screenshots there and present. I think that we've been collecting the screenshots on backdropcms.org, but we weren't actually outputting them. I know that we also have some work to do, that we have that capability to pull in images for projects. And right now we're only doing it for themes because themes already had the screenshot attribute in their .info file. But we could start extending that out to modules and layouts as well to make it so that these pages for downloading themes as well as modules and layouts have a better appearance. And I think that we have yet work to do incorporating similar changes into the installer project within Backdrop Core. But we have the data. Jen just styled up this page and made it look quite a bit nicer. And we can do the same thing inside of the project browser. I don't know, just another thing.
Oh, totally relevant. I mean, that actually helps with, move the ball forward in the direction that I want to. So that's, I didn't know that. So it's good to see.
All right. And lastly, we also have another initiative on telemetry. Telemetry is a project in which we want to start collecting feedback about the ways people are using Backdrop, collecting automated information from Backdrop installs and reporting back to backdropcms.org so that we can make decisions around what features people are actually using and like when it's appropriate to sunset legacy pieces of software and things of that nature. So telemetry has been adopted more recently by Tim, St. Paul Tim, and he's going to be taking the lead on moving that issue forward in the future, but he's currently tied up today. So those are two initiatives that we have going, and that's kind of it. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to bring up or mention today?
No, thanks.
Okay.
I've got one thing just out of the blue. One thing that I learned at Backdrop Live that sort of surprised me and made me think was that there were within the community there were two different sort of mini ISPs being launched within our community that are Backdrop specific. And it strikes me that we should encourage that and celebrate that and kind of keep tabs of the Backdrop specific resources available. I guess it's more appropriate for like an outreach meeting that we didn't do today. So I've got pent up desire to talk about that stuff. But I'll just throw that out there. Maybe I'll write up something.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, we have because small agencies are some of the best candidates for the use of Backdrop because Backdrop is relatively simple to learn. It's very similar to Drupal 7 if they have done Drupal 7 in the past. Its resource requirements are low. Backdrop is really great for small agencies who work with clients who expect that agency to be like full service. They don't want to have to make hosting decisions. They don't want to have to even know what technology is being used. They want a website that they can manage themselves, and they pay an agency to completely build and manage the website. We're getting these agencies that are a combination like hosting provider, where of course they're reselling some other larger hosting, but they have their own hosting offerings that they also sell to clients in addition to doing the development work, and that's great. Like perfect use case for Backdrop.
Yeah. Well, I just think it makes a huge difference if we have integrations that are kind of ready to go. It's nice, for example, that Pantheon, has obviously a profile where you can spin up a Backdrop site in a fully supported spot on Pantheon. I think it's great that the local development environments, Lando, DDEV, and things like that, offer Backdrop as menu options when you go to install local systems. I think it's great that City CRM lists Backdrop as one of their fully supported platforms. So, like the more stuff like that we can get, the easier it is for things to move forward.
Yep, and I know that we've got a number of people who have been working on getting Backdrop into Softaculous, which would make it so that if you use any general shared hosting provider like Namecheap or, heaven forbid I say GoDaddy, A2 hosting, they have Softaculous as a tool to install and manage CMSs from like one-click installers from the dashboards.
Right.
So,
we're talking about cPanel too. Is that the same issue or related issue?
cPanel frequently has the plugin for Softaculous. That's usually the way shared hosts have the installer for CMS.
So if you solve the Softaculous problem, you get cPanel.
That's right.
There we go.
Yep. All great initiatives. Softaculous continues to be a little bit tricky because it's not a matter of us like volunteering to maintain Softaculous. Softaculous is a strangely like centralized demand generated like which software gets updated, that they need a particular volume of people requesting Backdrop or any piece of software, and then with enough volume, then they put it in. And then it's similar for actually updates, that they have a kind of like a user-driven like, is this software out of date? And then they vote saying this software is out of date, this software is out of date. When they get enough people saying the software is out of date, they're like, oh, we have to assign someone to update that piece of software. So it's a very reactive system as far as like generating what content gets in there. That's my understanding, at least. I could be off, but that's what I've seen from my own experience using it. Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you guys for joining the Backdrop meeting. Sorry if it's a little bit shorter than usual, but hey, thanks for being here.
No worries.
Okay, well, thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys around on the internet. And if you, Luke, if you have time, today is a great day to be working in the issue queue, looking at things, because we've got those collaborators coming in from the Grace Hopper celebration. So if you want to help move some issues along, I'm sure that they would appreciate another set of hands.
All right.
Just a thought.
All right. Sure. Yeah, I know that sounds. How do I coordinate with them? In Zulip, or is there like a more direct way?
There is on Twitter another Zoom channel that is currently being used for Grace Hopper. And so if you want to look at Backdrop CMS's tweets, looks like it's actually still, it's a second tweet in, actually it looks like Jen is the one that actually posted the Zoom channel, but Backdrop CMS retweeted it. It's the first retweet in Backdrop's feed.
There we go. All right, I'll take a look.
Okay, well, thanks, guys, and see you guys around.
All right.
Bye.